This is the My Lady ADHD podcast, a place to find common ground with other ADHDers, where we learn all about our ADHD brains while laughing alongside amazing guests who really get it. My name is Tina Haynes, and I'm so grateful you're here. Let's do this thing together. Hi, welcome back to the podcast. Super glad you made it back for another episode. We have an awesome episode in store for you today. But first, I kind of wanted to mention a little hack that I found for myself that maybe you can take with you when you're having a rough day. So, this past week was one of those weeks where the narrative in my head was just brutal. It was just a constant barrage of, you're not doing enough. What are you doing? Why aren't you doing anything on your to do list? Nothing's getting done. There's so much to do. Why aren't you doing anything that you're supposed to be doing? I mean, you know. So finally, I said, enough is enough. And I got out a piece of paper and I started writing down all of the things that I actually had accomplished this week. And you guys, I did a lot. Honestly, I feel like it was way more than the average person. I had done so many things in the past week. I just had forgotten. I'm not going to get into like the laundry list of things that I did, but I'm telling you, it was shocking. There were some major things on that list, but some smaller things I thought were also important to include, like showering. I fed myself. I parented. I took the dog for a walk 3 times a day, every single day. I mean, you guys, the list was so long. So, what I'm hoping to do moving forward is when I hear that narrative in my head, just like the constant beating myself up for feeling like I'm not doing enough, from now on, I'm just going to get out a piece of paper and just start writing down all of the things that I did do. I shared this on Instagram, and several people told me that they do some version of this, like that they do a to done list, which I think is really creative play on words there. But yeah, if you're not doing some version of this, I highly recommend it. Now, enough about me. Let's talk about this episode. I chatted with Tina Mathams. She is known as the ADHD accountant, and I had such a good conversation with her. But to be honest, I was like really scared at first because talking about money is like, it gives me the heebie jeebies. Like, I got goosebumps and sweaty and nervous right before I started talking with her because it's such like a trigger for me because I was so bad at money and my money mindset is just not great. But after talking with her, I just started to feel a lot better. Tina gave a lot of good tips about where to even start. We talked about impulsive spending, organizing money, and like why those things are complicated for someone with ADHD. This episode was so relatable, just like every episode that I've had where I'm talking with other ADHDers. And I really think that you're going to resonate with her message. So, without further ado, here is my friend Tina Mathams, the ADHD accountant.
I am joined today, my guest, Tina Mathams. I'm pretty sure I said that right.
Yep.
And she's here to chat with us a little bit about money and ADHD, which I'm excited but also nervous because my relationship with money is not great. But I'm hoping that Tina is here to tell me that that's pretty normal for people with ADHD.
Absolutely.
Is it? Okay, good. I already feel better. So, Tina, I want to hear a little tiny bit about your background with ADHD and kind of how you ended up in this space.
Sure. So my background is I got diagnosed with ADHD after my son did, and I did a lot of research. He also got diagnosed as autistic as well, but I did a lot of research into ADHD because that just shook me a little bit because obviously I didn't understand it very well. He wasn't the boy in class who was disruptive. So I was like, what even is this? Like, why is he getting diagnosed with this? And in my readings, I have never read or watched anything so incredibly validating. It was like someone just gave me YouTube videos and podcasts and articles and research articles about my life. So after that, I went and got assessed twice. I've been assessed twice now and diagnosed twice as well, which is great. Just in case I didn't know the first time I had ADHD, I know the second time.
Yeah, that sounds so typical because a lot of us doubt that diagnosis so much that we feel like,
Yeah.
okay, I need a second or third opinion here, especially
Yeah.
women, because we just don't even, a lot of us don't even realize that women can have ADHD. So you probably went
Yeah.
through that same cycle. And I'm
Yeah.
guessing your symptoms probably were very different from your son's symptoms too. So like there's that whole angle.
Yeah, to a point. It's funny. I look back and people always used to ask, if he did have anything. And I'm trying to sort of, not say, not say the wrong thing here, but it's not that I was saying, is there something wrong with him? But I guess in a polite, kind way, they were just trying to ask if he was autistic or ADHD or something. And I always used to brush it off and be like, no, he's, there's nothing there. Like, he's exactly like me. I always used to think that we were exactly the same. So when he got those diagnoses, I'm like, oh, okay. Makes sense.
That's hilarious. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's hilarious. For the people in the audience who can't see, I'm guessing that's your son bouncing around behind you with the ball.
That's actually my daughter who has
Okay.
ADHD too.
Okay. All right. That's awesome.
We're a fun
Hey,
household.
yes, it sounds like it. That's so funny. So how did you get involved with the whole money side of ADHD? Like, share that briefly. Like, were you
Yeah.
one that struggled with money and that kind of threw you
Oh,
into this space?
I struggle to talk about things briefly, so I'm going to try here.
Hmm.
I have always actually struggled with money, to the point where I used to feel a lot of shame being an accountant and being in the financial space and not being able to manage my money properly. And I didn't know why. I always just figured or assumed it was because, I was never taught about money. And look, most of us weren't taught about money when we were growing up. So I just assumed it was that. And, in my work, it's different. I can look at other people's money a lot better than my own. But it was just, the impulsive spending, and I couldn't save and all that kind of stuff. I had very, very bad money mindset as well. So when I got diagnosed, or actually, I think it was before I got diagnosed, when I was still sort of in the stages of, I think I have ADHD, is when I started my Instagram account, the ADHD accountant. And that was a whole thing in itself, because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to out myself here as an accountant with ADHD. And at the time, I didn't know anyone else who was an accountant that had ADHD, but I was like, no, I got to do this, put myself out there, let people know that this is the thing, because at the time I didn't know there was a whole social media thing either. Like, I just didn't know, because my background is I didn't come from social media thinking I've got ADHD. It was all from, family and my son and that kind of stuff. So, now I've forgotten what I'm talking about.
Woo,
How I got
ADHD.
okay, how I got into space. So I guess the Instagram account was just a thing. It wasn't ever supposed to turn into anything. I certainly didn't think it would, but it did. It started to grow, and people started to send me questions about asking about money. And at the time, I was just posting general stuff about ADHD, my experience, what I'm learning. So when these questions started coming in about money, I'm like, oh no, I just don't think that I'm the right person to talk to you about money. Like, I can't, I have a background of not being great with money, so I'm not going to talk to you about money.
Oh my gosh.
But I started.
Tina, I'm going to stop you there because I want to tell you how relatable that is. Because when I started talking about ADHD, I felt like the complete wrong person to be talking about ADHD
Right?
and like how to
Yeah.
like trying to maybe educate the public about how to like help yourself with ADHD was very hard for me because I felt like imposter syndrome 100%. So I relate to
Yeah.
that like really hard. But I want to say how proud I am that you went online and talked about money as an ADHD, like someone with ADHD who's an accountant, to
Yeah.
talk about that public and put yourself out there for employers or whoever to see that is
Mm.
really, really difficult. And I know because I did it in a different way.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of bravery to talk about ADHD in such a public way, especially back when you
Mm,
started. It probably wasn't so common.
yeah.
So I just want to like throw that out there that I see you.
Mm. Thank you.
I see you putting
Um,
yourself out there. So that's
yeah. Oh,
awesome.
yeah, you're exactly right about, it being so public and things like that. And I'm sure you feel the same. It was completely worth it. And it is completely worth it, like continuing to talk about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the questions kept coming, and it got to the point where I spoke to a coach, and they're like, because I was going to go in a different direction. I was like, I think I'm just done with accounting, with finance. Clearly, I'm just not in the headspace for that. I have ADHD. I can't do it. And then um, I spoke to a coach to get me to somewhere else, and they're like, look, you can go in any direction that you want, but like, she's like, you are in such a good position to start talking about money because there's not really anyone else doing it. If there are people, there's like really minimal people. And she's like, let me tell you, ADHDers need it. So I was like, okay. I took that away and I thought about it, and I was like, it occurred to me that a lot of things that I had put in place around my money was pre-diagnosis. So I had to sort of get to a point where I was switching off a lot of the typical money advice that I was hearing and kind of go down my own path. And I was
Mhm.
like, it didn't occur to me until then that it was like, oh, that's ADHD. That's ADHD and money. I had to just find a way to do it because no one else was talking about it. And I was like, okay, let me try this. So I started to put a little bit of content out about money, and then everyone was like, wow, this is incredible. Like, it's so relatable. People liked that I had been there. Like, I'm not some neurotypical person who's never had an issue with money trying to educate ADHDers on money. It was like, no, I've been where other people are. And to a point, I'm still there. Like, I still have ADHD. I still struggle with saving, with impulsive spending. It's just that I've learned the things to put in place to sort of overcome that, and get a little bit better with that. So it kind of just snowballed from there. And I just let it. I was like, this is fun.
I really hope you're enjoying this chat. I wanted to take a quick break to tell you about one of the tools that I keep in my ADHD toolbox, Evernote. Evernote is an app that I use to help keep the chaos in check. I use it to take notes, keep up with tasks, and manage my schedule all in one place. Evernote doesn't force you to organize a certain way, which is really helpful for my ADHD brain. It syncs up with other apps like Google Drive, Slack, Outlook, Gmail, and more. I'm a big fan of Evernote. It's one of the products that I recommend most to ADHDers. To learn more about Evernote, visit evernote.com. And now, back to the show.
Yeah. So what are a couple of the things that you hear people with ADHD struggling with the most with like with money? Like what are the common questions or the common struggles that you're hearing?
Definitely the top one is impulsive spending. Whenever I get some, I put little question boxes up on my Instagram, or I talk to clients or other ADHDers, it's mostly impulsive spending, followed by saving, and
Mm.
then followed by just not knowing how to organize money, like not knowing how to, like, how to pay their bills on time, how much to save, just the basic sort of organizing money, like where it's going to go and things like that. So they're the top ones that always come up.
It's so crazy. And I'm guessing that's related to just executive functioning skills and planning and time management
Yeah.
and all of those things. I think we have a really hard time with seeing, like, obviously with details, but just big picture things. And I don't even know how to verbalize my issues with money. Like
Mm,
that's kind of my perspective, is like I have so many issues with money and how it comes in and how it goes out, and I just can't track it very well. I can't
yeah.
I don't I literally don't even know how to verbalize what my issues are with money. Is that like a common thing too, or is that just a me thing?
No, that's pretty common as well. I find a lot of people do say like they just don't even know where to start. Like
Yeah,
I will get,
that's how I
you know,
feel.
especially when I do workshops and things like that, and people will message me and they're like, "Is this going to be okay for me?" Because I don't even know where to start. I don't know the first thing about money. I don't know how to use my money, and it's definitely it's not a you thing. Don't worry, it's definitely common in the ADHD space. But you're exactly right. Like our issues with money can be directly related to our ADHD, the impulsiveness, the executive function. It's interesting how much of those skills you do need when you do manage your money. And that's what I find the most fun thing. We need to get creative to be able to manage our money in a way that just suits our brain. And that's really all it comes down to. It's shutting off a lot of the typical money advice and going, okay, well, how am I going to do this? And that's what I help clients with as well. It's not, this is the way you're going to do it because you have ADHD. We're all different. We're not robots. Like a different thing's going to work for different people. So it's about helping them figure that out for themselves, because the worst thing that you can do is just give an ADHD person like a cookie cutter thing when it comes to anything, but especially money. You really have to work out what's going to work for you.
Oh my goodness, that sounds intimidating. It sounds better, like you're saying, like one system isn't going to work for all of us, and I can appreciate that. It's just like everything else with ADHD.
Yep.
There's certain tools that work for you, and
Yep.
don't feel ashamed if the other tools aren't working. And that is when you can come to that realization of like, okay, I'm not going to beat myself up or shame myself because this tool's not working for me. And then I struggle because I feel like I grew up with just the wrong tools and the wrong messaging around money.
Yep.
And I think that's also very common. Yeah, I don't know. I'm overwhelmed even talking about money.
Yeah, I even just what you just said about the messaging as you were growing up, like my mind just went straight back to all that, and I just felt my body tighten a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know about you, but
Yeah, I'm sweating.
certainly
I'm literally sweating.
I know. Like I remember growing up and hearing people talk about, oh, you should have, 6 months of your wage saved, and every time you get paid, you should put, this much into savings, and then make sure you've got enough to buy a house one day because that's what you need to do. And there was all this should, need that just didn't suit us. And no wonder now we're adults going, what do we do? No idea how to handle money, no idea what to
Well,
do with it.
because none of those equations are factoring in the fact that, like, I've had a really hard time keeping jobs. I've had 29 different jobs, and my pay has been a little wonky throughout the years.
Yep.
And sometimes I've been without a job. And like, that's not quote unquote normal for someone to be, for someone with ADHD, it's quite normal.
Yeah.
But for
Exactly.
neurotypical, so like that's not being factored into the equation. Like, we're not supposed to job hop the way that we do, and we're not supposed to like try new careers and try new things. And so money has just been such a roller coaster for myself, but also for so many people that I know in the ADHD community. It is literally a roller coaster. So what are some of like some tangible things that you can like suggest, like for people who can't afford a coach, or maybe they don't know that they can afford a coach because they don't know how much money they have? Like, is there like a basic place you can start with, like how to get a grasp on this?
There is.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah, there is. And I feel like when I start talking about this, I always need to put a little disclaimer that, as you said before, it's just sometimes it's about trial and error. It's trying something, and if it doesn't work, don't let the shame and guilt stick in your mind for too long in your body, because It's okay. It's okay if you don't know where to start. It's okay if you try something and you don't stick with it. There's this idea about consistency as well. And if someone can't do something every day or consistently throughout the week or whatever it may be, that's wrong and we've failed. And 100% no. At least being persistent with it rather than consistent. If you fall off the wagon, just get back on. It's totally fine. You're not going to be left behind. But just if you are someone who doesn't even know what's happening with your money and in your bank account, the first thing to do is to get curious and sit down and see what's in there. And that's a big step for some people as well, even just going into their bank account, opening the app, going on the banking website, whatever it is. That's a huge step.
That can be kind of overwhelming for someone with ADHD because we lose passwords and we get locked out of things. And if we try a few times and we're consistently locked out, or we lose our debit card or whatnot, it's so frustrating. And you can you shut down pretty quickly and you're just like, that's it. I'm gonna deal with my money next week.
Yeah.
But I like what you said about persistency and not consistency. Persistency versus consistency, because I really like that. I think that should be our motto, actually.
Yeah, I have a client who basically that became her motto. She was just like, that was life-changing for her to have someone say it's okay to not be typically consistent, because that's just not us. That's not our brain.
I hate that word, actually.
Yeah, I know. So even just bringing it right back to that. So a lot of people think that they need to start with budgeting, and it's like, well, actually budgeting's quite far down the track. If you don't even know what's happening in your bank account, actually sitting down to do a budget could actually be quite a few steps down the track. Bringing it right back and just tracking what's in your bank account, seeing what's coming in, seeing what's going out, doing what I like to call an expense audit, which probably sounds really boring to other people, but it's just having a look at your expenses, your subscriptions, what subscriptions have you forgotten about that you're still paying for, that kind of stuff. But as I said, it's taking it right back and making sure that you know what steps are needed. So if you are someone who struggles to even go into your bank account, well, then step back again. Figure out what kind of headspace you need to be to actually go into your bank. Do you need to be in a comfy chair? Do you need to be, I don't know, outside in the sun to even just be able to start doing that?
Yeah, or even body doubling. I'm assuming having someone just near you.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It seems really handy.
Well, in my money membership that I have, I've included body doubling for that reason, because it can be amazing for ADHDers just to have someone else on a Zoom, so you can get your hard tasks done. Body doubling to actually do finance stuff is incredible. I'll sit down with one-to-one clients and actually do their budget with them. So we're together, we're talking about it, and it actually helps them put together a budget rather than sitting there by themselves going, I didn't even know where to start.
Oh my gosh, that sounds really smart. Because I know a lot of people that use body doubling for getting laundry done or for studying or just those hard tasks. And I can't think of a better use than with finances, because it is probably one that people kind of dread the most. And so you do need a support buddy. It is one of the top things in my ADHD community that I hear is people are asking constantly, help me with, how do I manage my money? How do I stop impulsive spending? How do I, they need help with that. And I think a good starting place would be literally asking for help if you need it, or using a body double.
100%. Yeah. That is literally the first step, acknowledging that you need some help with it and you're going to ask for help. So many people can't even struggle to do that because of the shame and the guilt that they feel around even saying I need help with my money. That can actually be a really big thing. And that's what will hold a lot of people back from even, getting through that to be able to manage their money. They don't want to admit to anyone that they're struggling and they need to ask for help. So
Oh, I remember the first time I did that. I'm married. I'm on my second marriage. My first one, I managed the money for about, 25 years. I managed my own money horribly. And when I got married, my husband now, I remember walking with him through the park and I just started bawling. And I said, I feel so heavy, even walking around at the park. I feel heavy and I cannot manage our bills anymore. Cause at the time I was managing all of our bills. I said, I can't do this. You're going to have to take it. We're gonna have to pay someone. I can't, like it physically felt so heavy to me.
yeah.
And then when he took it over, I felt like a freaking cloud. Like I was walking around lighter and just the world opened back up to me again because all I could see was the if you're struggling with money, it is like your number one priority. Like it is your focus every day. Like if you can't pay your bills and you can't keep your lights on because of this, you can't feed yourself, you can't get to work. Like those things are so heavy and it's all you can focus on. And when I took that off my plate and handed it to my husband, I could like see the world again. I know that sounds like really dramatic, but that's literally what it felt like for me when I handed over the finances. So I feel this very, very deeply. It impacted many years of my life when I was trying to struggle and manage the bills myself. And I was like you as well, where I had a job where I was in charge of purchasing and like maintaining spreadsheets that are full of expensive. I was managing expensive credit cards and I was in marketing, so I had a lot big budgets. And I was actually okay with that. But my personal stuff was just so hard to keep track of. And I know that not everyone can hand off the bills to their spouse or to someone else. And I feel so much gratitude. I tell my husband every time, like, I'll never leave him. I cannot leave him. Like, this is his one saving grace. No matter what we're going through, I'm like, we are here for life now because you take care of our bills and I don't have to take that on anymore. So I feel very lucky, but I do recognize that not everybody has that. But I think about younger Trina and how much stress that was on my body. I think about all of the other people with ADHD that don't have somebody just managing it for them. And it makes me hurt. It makes me like hurt for them. Oh, it's so awful.
Yeah. And it can be really heavy. Like it does take a lot of mental energy as well to do this. And you're exactly right. Like if you're in a position where you're struggling with bills or you're struggling to put food on the table, like I see that in my money Facebook group that, people are struggling with this. And gosh, I feel that so deeply. It is incredibly tough. And when you add ADHD and executive dysfunction on top of that.
The economy and like things are getting more expensive. It's getting harder to quote unquote survive, like a lot of people are working 2 jobs just to survive. And I don't know, I relate so hard to the struggles of ADHD and money. It is time blindness and ADHD and money management have been probably the biggest 2 pieces of my life that have made such a huge impact on my day to day. And I know that now because when I let go of the money management, I handed that to my husband, I could see the difference, like night and day difference of the stress on my body from managing that. And so that's why I really appreciate people like you who are helping other ADHDers like not go through that. And I wish you were around 10 years ago when I really needed help. It's really nice that there's people out there that have ADHD that understand how difficult it is. And that's a big piece of it. I think it's really helpful for people with ADHD to work with someone who has ADHD who really gets it. And
Yeah.
I think that's an asset.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's helped you in your business.
Yes, definitely. And
Yeah.
gosh, I wish I was around 10 years ago, even for myself with ADHD. But it's funny,
Yeah.
right? Like I don't, if I knew I had ADHD 10 years ago, I really don't think I'd be here helping other ADHDers right now. I'd probably be, I don't know what I'd be doing, but I think that, you know, I'm someone that definitely thinks that everything happens for a reason. And I feel like I got diagnosed at the right time, and you know, things just kind of fell into place after that. So
Yeah. I love that. So basically, if you are having problems with money, I think you're saying it's a good idea to just take a look. Just open it up and
yep,
take a look at it and see what's
yep,
going on. That sounds doable.
yep.
And yeah, I think that's a really good place to start. And I'm not going to give any other steps after that because I feel like that's enough. Just take a peek at what's going
Yeah.
on in the bank and what's going out. And the subscriptions thing is huge. I hear that a lot. I recently had taken a look at my subscriptions because I do still have a bank account, a personal bank
Yeah.
account, and I have racked up some subscriptions. And
Yeah.
there were several on there that I didn't remember having. And I know that's also
Yeah.
really common for people with
Yep.
ADHD. Are there
Yep.
any apps that you would recommend people use to help with money?
I'm not great with this question because I'm not an app person when it comes to money. For me, it's too many steps when I go in there because there's a lot of setup, and I always get stuck at the setup because you have to connect your bank account and you have to
Right.
start, you
The
know, putting in all the
subscriptions.
categories, and yeah, and it's a lot. It's a lot for me. But I do know that the app called You Need a Budget is very popular as well with ADHD people. So that might be one to start. I have used another one here in Australia. It's not around anymore. There's also another app called Mint, I think it is. I think it's,
That was
yeah,
yeah, that was the one that I hear a lot of people recommending is Mint.
yeah,
Those actually are
yeah,
the top two that I hear too. So
yeah,
that's interesting. I wonder if they just like are made a little bit more ADHD friendly for us than some of the
possibly.
others.
Yeah, I did want to actually try You Need a Budget at least, just to sort of see what it is like. Because yeah, I do wonder if it is ADHD friendly, or if it's just, you know, just one of those things that maybe it's just the most ADHD friendly of all the apps. I'm not too sure. So maybe I'll
Right.
do that one day and just sort of see what's going on and see, because then I feel like, because I always get this question, so I'm like, well, maybe I should just actually try at least those two so I can answer this in a little bit more detail
Well,
rather than like, oh, I don't like
maybe,
them.
maybe, but if apps don't work for you, that makes sense. Like that's why you haven't
Yeah,
taken a peek at them. And that just
yeah,
plays into that narrative that use what works for you. I mean,
exactly. Yep.
which is yeah, that's so funny. It's coming up every time I talk to any guest, no matter what we're talking about. It pretty much
Mm,
always comes back to um do what works for you and don't feel shame about it. And
yep.
when whether we're talking about nutrition or studying or housework or whatever, it literally always
Mm,
comes back to that. And I don't mind repeating it every single episode.
yep.
we could I think it's worth repeating because I still find myself with shame and guilt over things that I do every day. It's just like it's bred into me for some reason to feel shame and guilt
Yeah.
about using tools that work for you, which when you say it out loud in a sentence sounds so
It
stupid, but
does. It
it
sounds
is
ridiculous.
how it's how we're kind of trained to be, is to
Yeah.
feel bad about the way that we operate. And I'm just kind of sick of that narrative. So if we need to repeat
Yeah.
it again, say it loud for the people in the back. There
Yeah.
should be no shame or guilt for operating differently than other people
Yeah.
operate.
Exactly. That's
So
us. Like, we literally can't help but operate differently. Like, there's nothing, we can't change our brains. So
yeah, it's like everyone else is an Android and we're Apple or vice versa.
yeah. Yeah,
We
exactly.
have
Yeah.
different operating systems. So what are some ways that people can work with you? Do you have some programs that you'd like to let us know about?
Yes. So um So at the moment, I have my money membership. So as I said, it's got body doubling in there. We do weekly sort of Q&A coaching type sort of style Zooms. And it's a platform off Facebook. So it's like an app that you can go in and, hang around, ask questions. There's resources in there. So that's just started in January, and I don't know when this is going to air, but in January, I've got a workshop which is all about planning for your 2023. So it's financial success in 2023. So we're going to talk a little bit about budgeting, a little bit about money mindset, but sort of how to, plan for your finances for the new year from the beginning. So, and that's going to be a little bit of an interactive workshop as well, where we'll do some body doubling type stuff in that as well.
And I love that.
Yeah.
That sounds handy.
I thought so, yes. So I like to do sort of different sort of webinars and workshops here and there for people that don't sort of really want or need or can't afford the, the monthly sort of coaching style stuff, but just want something every now and then just to learn a little bit more. And if you are someone who doesn't know, doesn't really know where they can go with that, I do have my free Facebook group if you're on Facebook, which is ADHD Money and Finance. So also some resources in there. And again, you can come in, ask questions, get support. So that's the main ways.
I love that. Those Facebook groups or the community, anytime there's community and you can run in and just ask a question and you have 50 people with ADHD answering, I feel like that is so freaking valuable. And it's definitely a resource that anyone who's struggling with money, I would recommend you running to her Facebook page, like run as fast as you can, because those groups are just, I find so much value in ADHDers helping one another with this kind of thing. It's the whole reason that social media for ADHD has been what it has been, is because we all really need each other.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so heartwarming when someone posts in, not just my group, but other groups. And you're right, all these people flocked to the post to answer either the question or just give support. Some people are like, man, I don't have the answer, but I'm just here to support you and say that's okay. And it's so incredibly beautiful. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it is. It is. And that's what keeps us doing what we're doing right now, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Right.
So people can find you on Facebook. Where else can they find you, Tina?
The best place to go is Instagram, because once you're on Instagram, all my links are there to anything that you might need. So I'm at the ADHD Accountant on Instagram. So if you pop there, all my links are there. And I've got obviously a lot of posts on ADHD and money. So hopefully something there can help as well.
Yay. Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. Fortunately, I don't probably need to go to your Facebook page because my husband does take care of all the bills. But if he ever leaves me, I will be the first person to join all of your programs. That's the reason we're married to this day. But
well, hopefully that doesn't happen. But in the event it does, you'll be warmly welcomed.
Lovely. Well, thank you. I will share all of Tina's information in the show notes. And it's been really great chatting with you.
You too, Trina. Thank you.
Thanks again for listening to My Lady ADHD podcast. You can find more ADHD content online at myladyadhd.com, and make sure to give me a follow on Instagram or TikTok at My Lady ADHD. Bye.